Okay, number 38. We are trying to graph the function negative x squared minus 4x. So we see the final product here, but let me draw how I did it uh, on a piecewise basis, right? Okay, so I'm going to put up a little coordinate system right there and recreate what it was that I did. So one thing that I kind of do first is try to see if there is any easy information I can glean from the function itself. So I know that the coefficient of the x squared term, just based on my knowledge of parabolas, is that if the coefficient is negative, my parabola will point downwards. If my coefficient is positive, then my parabola will point upwards, right? So one of the things that I do first is I factor out my expression, or try to at least, to determine where the zeros are. So I factored out a negative x from this expression, and I have negative x times the quantity of x plus 4. From this, I see that I have my function will be equal to 0 when either x equals 0 or x equals negative 4. So the first thing that I did was I plotted at negative 4 and I plotted at 0. And those are two known points so far. The other thing that I know based on parabolas is that wherever they cross the x-axis, it is symmetric. So if I want to know where the vertex of my parabola is, I know that these 2 points where it crosses the x-axis will always be that whatever the midpoint between these 2 points is, that is my axis of symmetry for the parabola, right? So only knowing the point that I had here and the point that I had here, the vertical line at the midpoint of those two, which I knew was negative 2, I knew that that would be somewhere on that line would be the vertex of my parabola. So if I wanted to graph something, I would tend to favor the negative side, because that's where the whole picture will be. So I evaluated the function at negative 5, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and 1. I didn't evaluate it at 0 and negative 4 only because I knew what those values would be already. They would be 0. Those points were already plotted, right? So the very first thing that I did was I evaluated it at x equal to negative 2, which was 4, right? So these are all x values here. So at negative 2, it was 4, so I plotted that point, right? And then I figured out what the rest of the points were, right? At negative 3, it was 3, and at negative 5, it was negative 5, right? At negative 1, it was 3. Notice that it would be that we're getting symmetric values, right? And at 1, it is negative 5. And then I just connect the dots. And that's my parabola. Okay, so for number 39, it says find the vertex of 4x minus x squared. Okay, so to do this, you need to know how to complete the square. Right? And one way that you do that is you rewrite it as negative x squared plus 4x plus whatever your constant is. In our case, it's plus 0. You factor out whatever your a term is, right? In our case, it's negative 1, so I just factor out that negative. Then you have to take half of your middle term and then square it. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, and then square that, and that's positive 4. Then you have to, so you added 4 inside of this expression, but to the whole expression it says if you added a negative 4 because of this negative quantity here. So you have to counteract that by adding 4 outside of that. So then the factorization of this is x minus 2 squared plus 4. So this is the form of the parabola as a times x minus h squared plus v. So my parabola always sits at h comma v. So my parabola's vertex is at 2 comma 4. Now another way to do it that is similar to what we looked at in problem number 38 is to factor, find the zeros, right? So when I factorize, when I take the factor of this, I get x times the quantity of negative x plus 4. I found the zeros, so my first 0 is at x1 equal to 0, and my second 0 is at x sub 2 equal to 4. The vertex is at the midpoint, right? So the midpoint between 4 and 0 is 2. And then my y vertex, right, would be the function evaluated at 2. So I plug 2 into my expression here, and I get out 4, right? So I found the same exact thing there. One reason that maybe you might not be able to do that is that you might not be able to find the zeros because your parabola might be pointed up and shifted up. So you would never get any zeros because there wouldn't be any zeros. So if it looks easy to solve it this way, then do it this way. If there are no zeros, then you got to complete the square. Okay. Let's stop and just do number 38 and 39.